Hello and welcome to Women Thrive TV, the five keys to thrive. I'm so excited to have you here for another amazing episode with some of our guests from Women Thrive community. And today we're talking about how to thrive in your leadership. I'm excited to invite my guest today because I've gotten to know her for quite some time now, and I just love her leadership style and also for what she stands for. So, my guest today is Mali Pampadith. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you? It's so wonderful to spend time with you again.
Yes, likewise. Let our audience know where you're joining from today.
I am dialing in from right outside of Washington, D.C. in Old Town Alexandria in Northern Virginia.
Yeah, amazing. I know you're passionate about leadership for various reasons, and leadership, the way you do leadership or the way you teach leadership is a little bit different to others. First of all, why are we talking about this subject today?
I think the future of society and humanity really revolves around our leadership, leadership from every level, regardless of title, leadership in communities, leadership in organizations, leadership in our households, right? This is part of being a human is also evolving in the way we show up in the world. And so that's why I feel so passionate about continuing to do this work
Mm.
because humanity really requires us to focus on where do we go from here as human beings.
Yeah, and I know you talk about leadership in a slightly different way that is underpinned with your own values. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh gosh, I love talking about this, so I'll keep it pretty concise. I always talk about my business, my work as a vessel for which I live my purpose. And it has really sustained us as a business because when markets tank and political landscapes change, the stuff that keeps me going is why I'm doing it in the first place. Like it's rooted in my purpose. And all that to say that when I was a young child, as a refugee of war, flooding my homeland of Laos, coming to the United States of America, I really witnessed the power of human beings who are compassionate and empathetic. And it just planted something in my heart, Raimonda, that really allowed me to map my purpose in the end. And our purpose comes from our own lived experiences. So when I develop compassionate, empathetic leaders, it's because I am the direct beneficiary of compassionate, loving, caring souls that took a chance on us, strangers from the other side of the world, being able to believe that we had value, that we were worthy of support, of love, of commitment. And these compassionate souls sponsored my family. Then I had compassionate souls who were my educators who saw something amazing in me in times when I was parenting my parents and I didn't see really my own value as a young child from being bullied from all kinds of craziness coming to an unknown land and unknown rules and structures of society. And so that kind of led me into looking at my past, looking into my present, and realizing that I'm only here today as a successful business owner because of those compassionate souls. So my purpose is to develop more of those souls. That's in essence the why behind our work.
Yeah, and impact comes in many shapes and forms. But I believe when you, as a leader yourself and as someone who works with leaders, if you steer the ship from the front and you empower and you create better and compassionate leaders, it trickles down to such bigger impact than we probably even can't fathom at this moment in time. It just creates a huge ripple effect because a lot of it starts from the top. And I believe what you're doing today is so, so important for so many generations to come.
Thank you so much. I love that you said that it oftentimes, almost always has to come from the top. And at the same time, I talk to individual contributors all the time and saying, sometimes you don't wait for it to come from the top. You are a leader. You have decisions that you make on a daily basis. You have teams you work on. How about raising your hand to lead initiatives? Sometimes it's those in the front line that inspire the top to actually make commitments, to invest in a greater culture, to invest in a more motivated and productive, innovative, happy team. And so yes, I believe that to make sure that it's sustainable, it has to come from the top and the buy-in, the embodiment, the investment. But oftentimes it's those in the front line that have to speak up, that have to request it, demand it sometimes, so that they can really create an environment where they truly can thrive.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great reminder, I guess, for our listeners because I meet a lot of women who are in business or entrepreneurship or coaching, and perhaps they don't see themselves as leaders. And it's interesting that sometimes we don't see ourselves as someone who has influence or someone who may be a leader, but it's those around us that experience us.
Yes, I mean, I've been there myself, not valuing my own experiences. Well, who am I to think? I'm just this person that was a child refugee. I don't have much to contribute to society, to the world. I'll just go to work and do my thing. But there's something inside of us that tells us all the time that we do have purpose, that there's a calling for all of us, right? Sometimes multiple callings. And oftentimes we don't listen because external forces tell us otherwise. And we start to believe that. But I always say the soul always knows. Right? We're here for a purpose. Like it took so much, first of all, to create us, like all of the elements of the cosmos, and then our parents had to meet from wherever they were in the world, and all these little things had to happen for us to even exist. And so the miracle of our existence is oftentimes kind of taken for granted. And so I always think about in my own evolution and my own personal development to remind myself, okay, remember, even though you have these doubts and fears, you're a walking miracle. What are you going to do with that blessing?
Wow.
Helps- That helps me a lot.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to introduce my guest today to our audience today. And just so they can get a little bit of an idea of who you are, Mali. So Mali Pampadith is the founder and CEO of SOAR Community Network that helps leaders build compassionate, cohesive, and collaborative teams and organizational cultures that improve employee engagement and create positive social impact. Mali also is a TEDx speaker and three times number one international best-selling author who has been named a community partner for Oprah Winfrey's own network Belief Initiative and has been featured in several documentary films, which is incredible in itself and very exciting as well, Molly.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a journey for sure. As I was saying earlier, we don't value the fact that our journey tells a story that inspires and that can impact and influence others. And I've learned to accept that also about myself. I used to be very shy. I used to get stage fright. So it's an evolution to become the type of human, the type of leader that really can gift to the world. And so it's a work in progress.
Yeah, well, you do amazingly. Well, I'd love to dive right in because I think we got some really juicy keys and nuggets of inspiration for our audience today. So why don't we just dive into the first key to great leadership?
Right. Thank you. Well, the 5 keys that I'll be sharing, starting with the first, is a part of our SOAR C3 framework. And the 3 C's, as you mentioned, compassion, cohesion, collaboration. The first key really for leaders is to truly define or refine their vision, their
Mm.
North Star, their purpose, their reason for existing. Just kind of like the story I shared about the vessel. What is the vessel in which you get to live your purpose? We have to define that. So that's the first key for every leader to truly understand what is mine to do in the world, what is mine to do in the context of this role and the responsibilities of this, whatever leadership role you have. Clarity, on that North Star is really one of the most essential things that you can own for yourself. So we start there. Mapping your purpose, mapping your why is number one.
Yeah. And I find it from my own personal experience that it inspires others. So even if I was to remove myself as an individual from my business, if I plant that seed of my North Star, of the purpose and the mission behind it, I feel like my community and the movement would survive me, basically.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what North Stars are. It is a guiding light for your legacy. The thing that you're meant to do in this world is not just individual to you. You have a purpose, and that purpose has a ripple effect. So once you create that North Star, it becomes a compass for others who have the same desire for the type of change you wish to create.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. What is our second key?
Our second key, especially with organizational leaders, is to truly diagnose employee experience, not just their engagement, their experience. How do they feel about their role that they're in, the roles and responsibilities that have been gifted to them? How do they feel about their manager, their direct supervisor? How do they feel about their overall team? How do they feel about the culture of the organization? And a lot of those tools are out there to measure even things like trust. How do you measure trust within and amongst team members? Once you get a pulse of your employees' overall experience, it is a game changer. It is an opportunity to actively listen, but not only do surveys just for survey's sake, but to take the data and to create real strategies that are going to move and inspire your people because you're taking action and you're also taking accountability on what the data tells you
Yeah.
is missing or gaps. And so that would be the second key is don't wait until problems boil up within your team or your culture. Diagnose employee experience every year, sometimes twice a year, especially if you're growing rapidly and fast, so that you can address issues and challenges immediately.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about it that way. Because, like, as a still small business, we do personality tests and sort of interviews and conversations with our team, but have never really thought about it that way. And I recall a moment in my business growth, we're experiencing growth, and without realizing, there were a few people steering our culture in a wrong direction. And that was affecting a lot of other employees' experiences. And that's when I've learned how important it is to just keep a pulse, keep your finger on a pulse of what's really going on internally, because it doesn't, it's not always obvious.
Yes. And when you have multiple leaders at the helm, it is extremely essential that in that first key that I shared, the mapping why, that you bring those leaders together and you facilitate an opportunity for consensus. Because if you don't have that consensus, you're going to have 20 different executives, 50 different executives who don't have a consensus on that North Star for the organization, and every business unit will suffer because
Mm.
their leader is going to say, we're steering this way. The other leader is
Yeah,
going to, and it creates so many challenges, conflicts, but also the silos continue to expand because they're like, well, my captain has said we're going this way, and my captain is saying, mm-mm. That is why we see what we see as organizations grow and grow.
interesting. Wow. What is number three?
Number three is setting strategic priorities with your people in mind. That is
Mm.
why we do the diagnose employee experience first. Oftentimes, I'm sure, Raimonda, you have worked with businesses as well. When there's strategic planning that takes place, typically it's vision, mission, values go straight into strategic priorities. And we do it differently. We say embed the people data and then make sure that when you set your strategic priorities, you're always looking at it from the people lens as well. Like, how are you going to achieve those priorities with your people currently on your team? And that's usually what's been missing in a lot of the strategic plans is who's on my team? Where are the gaps? How are they feeling? What do we need to address so that once we set out our strategic priorities and the top tier leaders agree to those priorities, we can then move into key component number four, which is align the employees to those strategic priorities and the work to be done based on, like you said, mentioned earlier, their behavioral motivational drivers. So use those assessments wisely, not just for the person's development or the leader's development, but how do you take those strengths and those caution areas and align it to the actual objectives of the organization? So it's not about gifting these behavioral assessments for the feel good and for the personal development and professional development, but how do you take that and create strategies to also create high performance with those strategic objectives in mind?
Yeah.
So that would be three and four. I'm combining them because they're so essential. Set those strategic priorities with your people in mind, and then align the actual current talent that you have with those priorities
Yeah.
from using behavioral assessments, using effective key competencies training, those types of things.
I love that. It's so, so important. It's a bit like playing chess and knowing that everybody on your chessboard has a particular role to play and functions and one could be different to the other. And when I look at my team and we have maybe something new that's coming up in the organization, always look at their strengths and also some of the motivating factors as well. Like, would they actually be motivated to do that particular task? So there are so many things that play part in aligning the right people to the right priorities in your business.
Yeah, and that alignment piece is so critical because there are also components like we do a lot of different workshops and we do cohort
Mm.
group training, group coaching, because not only is the behavioral science embedded in the process, but it's also the psychological safety, the team building, the trust building that has to happen alongside of that for the high performing, the collaboration, the innovation to be efficient and effective, right? You need to create that trust. And oftentimes it's like we often have been, let's just say, the surveys we get back from our clients many years ago before we had our framework was this is wonderful. This training is awesome for the moment, but we're going to go back to the same toxicity or miscommunication months from now. How are you different? And when we heard that feedback, we're like, we have to be different.
Yeah.
So we started to really bring our framework to the table because it is so complex. It has to be reinforced over time. One workshop, three workshops, three retreats is not going to transform your people, habits, and culture. It
Yeah.
has to be programmatic. It has to be a framework, which leads me to, I know you're going to ask me, number five, the key takeaways for number five, which is probably all the keys are very important and they're essential. That's why it's all parts of the framework.
Yeah.
But the fifth one is critical for sustainability, which is operationalizing all of those things that you've just uncovered and codify it, right? So how do you codify and how do you operationalize? Your internal team has to be able to move forward with the framework on their own. And so we want to be able to empower and teach the internal team, whether it's your chief people officer, your chief HR, human resources director, VP, they need to be trained on the tools, the systems, the framework to calibrate and recalibrate using the framework. So every time you have that strategic shift, are you refining your purpose? Map Y starts again. Do we need to go in every year because you're hiring people and people are leaving,
Yeah.
diagnose the employee experience, and so on and so forth? But that operational piece is what we do differently, which is to gift your internal team train them on how to do this. Our work is heavy probably for the first 18 to 24 months in terms of outsourcing, having us come in. But our ultimate goal is to empower you and leave you with the framework so that you're not now tied to us forever and ever and ever. Like, that's not freedom. We want to be able to allow your sustainability and your self-sustainability. And that's a part of our mission in life is to give you everything you need to flourish and thrive on your own as an organization, as a leader.
Yeah, that's amazing. Very, very empowering. And change takes time. Change in any organization, big or small, still takes time. And I think just as you say, if you have the right framework and the training, for me, it's everlasting. Any consultant that I brought into our business, whatever they left, even or whatever they imparted with us at that time, it wasn't really for that time. It was for some time in the future. If you maintain and you retain what has been done within an organization, it's a long-term effect.
Absolutely. And we often hear back from the business owners themselves, but certainly our internal partners, which is we call the employee experience team. So it could be, again, chief people officers, the HR, learning and development leaders. They're often very, very grateful to be able to have a framework that they can evolve and expand on their own, right? The foundation is what we want to bring forth. And all those creative souls that care about people, that care about talent, they are brilliant. And oftentimes what's missing is just the framework.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Molly, who do you work with typically, or how do you work with people, teams, organizations?
For very small teams, companies who have less than 50, maybe up to 100 employees. Sometimes it's directly with the partners, the CEOs, the co-founders themselves,
Mm.
and we're strategizing with them. And then they have sometimes their own internal folks that we partner up with to design these programs. If it's larger teams and larger enterprises, it's typically the chief human resources officers or the chief people officers, the chief learning and development officers. Those are typically our internal partners that we work hand in hand with to
Mm.
design these programs. Initially, we may be the ones to implement with our cadre of coaches and facilitators, but ultimately the goal is to bring it internal to them and teach them how to do this on their own.
Yeah,
So that's typically how we work.
yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about the books you've authored? I know you've authored several books. Maybe it's something that our audience can also grab and just read a little bit more about your framework or your story.
Absolutely. So the several books that I've written, the first one that I ever wrote is called A Million Fireflies. It's my memoir, really sharing the journey from war-torn Laos to almost present day. It's been out a while now, so I have to make a second edition very soon. The other books includes compilations with other incredible, incredible thought leaders, female leaders. So there's Born to Be Me, the Balancing Act, which talks about balancing your personal growth with your business life and making sure that as a whole human, you give yourself the opportunity to flourish in all areas of your life.
Mm.
There's also Seen and Sustain, a book that I co-authored with four other entrepreneurial women to help very small businesses map their vision, mission, and values. There is a process to do that, and we created that process. And so that's called Seen and Sustain. So multiple books that are out there and available. If you Google my name and if you go on sites like Barnes and Nobles or Amazon, you'll be able to find those publications very easily.
Yeah, I love it. And where do you most active, where people can engage and follow you on social media?
LinkedIn is where I am most active. I do have an Instagram. I do have Facebook, although I'm not as often on there, and Blue Sky as well. So again, I don't think there's another Mali Pampadith in the world, so it's very easy to find me. But LinkedIn is where I'm most active. And also learning more information about our framework and myself and the company. SOARcommunitynetwork.com is the best resource. And if you want to get a hold of me or my team, info at SOAR, that's SOAR, SOARcommunitynetwork.com.
Yeah, amazing. I think there's just so much value in our conversation. It certainly gave me a few aha moments myself and things that I was like, oh, I think I could implement that in my team and I think it would really have great results. So thank you for sharing those 5 keys to thriving leadership. And more than anything, I hope that those who are listening will take something away from this conversation and start to implement it, but also reach out to you. I think it'll be invaluable to have a conversation with you.
Thank you, Raimonda. I also just want to say one thing. Oftentimes, business owners who have very small teams, they get intimidated by, oh my gosh, it's a framework, and we don't have enough people, enough staff, enough money. There are very, very inexpensive ways to engage us for smaller teams, but you start now as you're building your team. If you have a team of 3, 5, 10,
Mm.
build the foundation early. Don't wait until you have 50, 100, 500, where all of this heaviness around culture and deciding to reverse engineer. It's
Yeah.
actually a lot more money in the end to reverse engineer than to build it from the ground up. So even for those that have small teams, please reach out to me. There are some very inexpensive but also free resources that I'm happy to share
Mm.
to get you on your way to build that foundation. So please don't hesitate to reach out even for those that are leading smaller
Yeah.
teams.
I believe so, really. It's start a conversation, start early. If you're planning on growing a business with a mission and purpose, I didn't even realize how quickly we grew our team and then how quickly things like culture started to play a part, especially as we started to grow. Our team has always been international, and there's a lot more dynamics than maybe one even realizes in communication and a culture that plays a big part. So just being really intentional, it shows your good intention, your leadership in that you care. You care about your company, you care about your team, you care about your impact. So just do it right from the start. It really does help.
Yeah. And to give yourself grace. You're not going to be perfect as a leader. You're a human being. We're all flawed. So it's a matter of getting back up every day and practicing and being a better version of yourself than the day before. And if you're able to be transparent about that, your team will truly respect and admire the fact that you're showing up very human to them. And it will create more of that cohesiveness. It's in the broken places where we actually come together. And I think that's really important for leaders to understand. You're not supposed to be perfect,
Yeah.
but your desire to want to improve and grow for the benefit of your team and your mission is the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your 5 keys to thriving leadership today, Molly.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy to be a part of your community.
Thank you. To all of our audience today, if you have enjoyed this episode, do make sure you share it with others and connect with our speakers. We have some incredible resources and knowledge within our community. These guests are thriving with just incredible resources for you. So do make sure you reach out to our speakers and leave a comment below if you have any questions or comments or share you wanted to share your own experiences in leadership. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you tap into for other episodes with other guests, and we look forward to seeing you on another episode. Take care for now. Bye.